Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Tuesday, June the 7th edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Calendar says June the 7th, and that means there's not a whole lot to talk about sports-wise. Unless you're a baseball fan, this is not the great time of year for you. NBA Finals, they're basically over. We'll get to that a little bit more later in the show. But still, all we have to do now, locally, is wait for football season. So the local newspapers here, Lexington, Louisville, even Cincinnati, they're getting out their fluff pieces. The stuff that are page fillers that can fill time and fill readers' eyes until there's actual stories to be printed come football season. So today we're going to call it Fluff Piece Tuesday because I browsed the local papers online and saw that there was no news, just fluff pieces. So we're going to go around and we're going to touch on how bad these articles could be. We're going to touch on how time-wasting these articles really are. Go to the Herald Leader website, and the very first story on the top of the sports page, the lead headline, tracking the top targets for the 2018 basketball recruiting class. 2018. If they signed with Kentucky today, they wouldn't play a game for Kentucky for 29 months. And you're really going to talk to me about that? Kids who aren't going to be here for 29 months? Wow. But people around here read that stuff and eat it up. It's unbelievable. There's a lot that can happen between now and 29 months, especially for 15, 16-year-old kids. I think sometimes people that are in this world where they follow recruiting all the time, they can't see the forest for the trees. But then again, what do I know? I'm just a kid who was raised on sports talk radio in Atlanta where nobody ever talks about recruiting. So let's go down some of these articles. First one that caught my eye, Anthony Crawford of the Herald had an article, a fluff piece, on Josh Forrest, the former UK linebacker drafted by the Rams and now going through his drills in off-season workouts to try to make the Rams roster. And the story talks about what a struggle it's been and how much of a chance he has to make the team. Cites all these former UK linebackers in the past few years that have done very well in the NFL. The Trevathans, the Williamsons, etc. My thing is this. If you're talking about Kentucky having all these great linebackers, all these great defensive players, how come in the last 3 years you had 3 players drafted into the NFL on the defensive side of the ball? 2 years ago, you had 2 drafted in the top 100 players, including one, Bud Dupree, a first-round draft pick. That year when you had your first-round draft pick, Bud Dupree, playing defense, you were 88th in the country out of 128 teams in rush defense. Last year when Bud Dupree left and all you had was Josh Forrest, you were 89th in the country in rush defense. It didn't matter. And when you play in a league where 7 of the top 45 rush offenses are in the SEC, especially teams that you have to play in the SEC East, like Tennessee, like Georgia. This year you have to play Alabama. And now you're counting on unproven kids to make you much better defensively than you have been in the past? It's flawed logic. Good luck to that Josh Forrest kid in the NFL, but don't sit there and try to sell me a bill of goods on the UK defense. Fluff piece number 2. There's a kid that plays for Lafayette's name is Jedrick Wills, and he's apparently a 5-star recruit. He hasn't started his senior in high school. That's okay, though. According to Rivals.com, he is the number 17 recruit in all of America. And all the insiders, using that term very loosely, say that he's a lock to go to UK. Great. I only point out one example. Damien Harris played at Madison Southern a few years ago. He went to Alabama. He's got a national championship ring. Do you think he regrets not going to Kentucky instead of going to Alabama? No way. And you know what I don't need to see? I don't need to see articles about high school kids and how great they're going to be in college. Why don't you let them get to college and then judge their play on the field once they get to college? It just follows the bottom line theory. If you can't bet on the next game, I'm not talking about it. I can't bet on the next Lafayette high school football game. So why in God's name am I talking about this? Fluff Piece Tuesday continues. Ben Revere is the subject of John Clay's latest effort, talking about how he's coming back from injury and leading off for the Nationals right now. And John Clay points out Ben Revere has a .289 career batting average. He led the National League in hits in 2014 with 184. He's been in the top 5 in his league 5 different times in stolen bases. He's had at least a .300 batting average in each of the last 3 years. All great stats. That's why it's called a fluff piece. Some of us who look at numbers more analytically see things for what they are. Ben Revere has 5 career home runs. Okay, he's not a power hitter. We'll take that out of the equation. Ben Revere's played for 4 teams in the last 5 years. If he was that great, why does he hop from team to team? I'll tell you why. For a guy who gets a lot of hits and who usually bats leadoff for his team, he never, ever walks. 2014, John Clay cited this. Led the National League 184 hits, batting average well over 300. In 626 plate appearances that year, he had 13 walks. 13 walks. His on-base percentage that year, .325. This is a kid that led the National League in base hits. On-base percentage, .325. So, in theory, the goal of the leadoff hitter is to what? Get on base. Like Willie Mays Hayes in Major League. Every time I see you hit the ball in the air, you owe me 20 push-ups. But if you have a leadoff hitter that can't get on base by the walk, how good of a leadoff hitter is he? That year, 2014, 184 hits, on-base percentage .325. Out of 146 qualified players, he ranked 81st in on-base percentage. Now, if you're a leadoff hitter, in theory, you would want your leadoff hitter's on-base percentage to at least be in the top half of Major League Baseball, not in the bottom half. 81st out of 146, and this is a kid that led the league in base hits, and he still can't get on base because he doesn't walk. You talk about a rich man's Billy Hamilton. Here are some examples for you. Ben Revere, 7 years in the league. As of today, 7 years in the league, 2,777 plate appearances. He has 125 walks in 7 years. Joey Votto last year alone, 143 walks. Didn't take him 2,777 at bats to get 143 walks. That's the definition of a leadoff hitter, getting on base. Who's the best leadoff hitter ever? Don't you dare tell me Pete Rose. We have a podcast coming up a few weeks from now comparing Rickey Henderson to Pete Rose as a leadoff hitter, and the results will truly shock you. Leave that for then. Rickey Henderson, on-base percentage, career, .401. 7 times Rickey Henderson walked at least 100 times in a season. That's a leadoff hitter. Ben Revere has walked 125 times in 7 years. Rickey would do that in a season. 7 times. If you can't hit the ball out of the park, which Ben Revere obviously cannot, you need to get on base by any means necessary. Whether it's the hit, the walk, the bunt, whatever. Ben Revere has shown he is not willing to take walks. And that's why he's not a top-flight Major League player. If he took 75 walks a year, he'd be an all-star. And he'd be one of the highest-paid leadoff hitters in the game. But he doesn't, so he's not. But who am I to say anything? The guy's made over $13 million in his career after this year, and I'm sitting here yelling about how pathetic he is. Fluff Piece Tuesday continues. We shift our attention to the Courier-Journal, who comes out with a UK Basketball Offseason Storyline story. I'm not even going there. We'll just skip this. It's 5.5 months until the first game. Now we shift focus to Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Enquirer, their Fluff Piece of the day, with a story that says, "Don't judge Bryan Price until all his arms are back," referring to the fact that a lot of his starting pitchers are injured or rehabbing as we speak. I've seen Bryan Price the last 2 years. I've already judged him judge, jury, and executioner. He's gone after this year. I don't care what these pitchers come back and are after their rehab assignments. Bryan Price is gone at the end of the year. Not even winning 20 games a month the last 3 months could help that. NBA Finals continue tonight in Cleveland. Warriors up 2-0. Only 2 teams in NBA history have come back from a 2-0 deficit to win the NBA championship. The 1977 Portland Trail Blazers, led by Bill Walton himself, and the 2006 Miami Heat, which I tend to think might have been a little fixed. That's neither here nor there. All I know is in the last 3 games that Miami won, Dwayne Wade himself had 64 free throws in that series. Dallas Mavericks as a team had 74. Even Tim Donaghy says that there's a bias in the league against Mark Cuban. Go figure. Golden State a 1-point favorite tonight. If there's ever a night to take Cleveland, this is it. Because if you look at LeBron, This might be his last chance ever to win. Oh, he's only 31. He's 31, but he's already played more career games than Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Those guys are already gone. And by next year, LeBron will have played more games than Michael Jordan in his career. Maybe LeBron needs to take a year off from the Olympics, like Steph Curry announced yesterday. And while I'm on the Olympics, it's the most overhyped sporting event in the history of man. I was in Atlanta for the Olympics in 1996. People talk about traffic and how awful it is in Atlanta. It was the best 2 weeks of traffic in the history of the city, I can promise you. There was nothing going on. There was nobody around. Nobody cared. Every business took a bath during the Olympics because everybody thought it was going to be great, and it was awful. And the bombing didn't help. Everybody remembers the 1992 Dream Team. Name the teams after that. Name the 96 Olympic team in Atlanta for basketball. Yeah, it's tough because nobody remembers. The Olympics are a concept of a world 2 generations ago. Don't sit there and show me tape-delayed events from earlier in the day. When's the last time you watched swimming? 4 years ago in the Olympics. When's the next time you'll watch swimming? The next Olympics. Nobody cares about this stuff except once every 4 years. But I digress. More fluff pieces. Back to Cincinnati. They're talking about Jay Bruce having a career year. Current batting average 280. His career high 281. On pace for 37 home runs. Career high 34. On pace for 117 RBIs. Career high 109. This is his best year to date, which is actually good news for the Reds because I don't expect to see him in a Reds uniform past July the 31st. The Reds could buy him out for $1 million next year. They'll do it if they have to keep him. Cardinals and Reds tonight in Cincinnati. Mike Leake makes his triumphant return to Great American Ballpark. 3.82 ERA, but 1.80 ERA in his last 3 games. John Lamb for the Reds, 5.58. Looks like Lamb will stay in the rotation. John Moscott was optioned to Louisville this morning. Thankfully, he and his +8 ERA. How come Alfredo Simon gets to stay in the rotation? Don't get me started on that one. Cardinals and Reds both have won 6 of their last 9. I'm as shocked as you are. These teams played in April. Cardinals won 2 out of 3. Cardinals only 3 games over, but as a road favorite this year, they're 5 over. They're 10-5. Johnny Peralta, former All-Star, back for the Cardinals. His first game of the year will be tonight. He'll go to third. Matt Carpenter go to second base. Reds is a home dog, 7-14. All that's pomp and circumstance. The numbers all point to the Cardinals winning this game, but the Reds have a lot of value. The Cardinals are -155. Reds +145. You're getting some value there. I just can't take the Reds tonight. It's Reds or nobody. For me, it's nobody. NFL, the Broncos made their trip to the White House yesterday, and it was joy for everyone because we got to see Peyton Manning at the White House. And of course, Obama has to play off of it, saying, hey, it's the guy from all the commercials. And, hey, you can stock a house with all the stuff he's trying to sell. And then yelling, Omaha! Exactly. Contrived, planned, you name it. It was so cornball. And then at the end, Obama says that Peyton Manning is so classy. Oh, yeah? Ask that girl in Tennessee from 20 years ago how classy she thinks Peyton Manning is. Just another example of why Peyton Manning is the biggest jerk in sports. Former Browns general manager Ray Farmer, the man who drafted Johnny Manziel 2 years ago, says the reason why he's out of a job today is because he didn't realize the celebrity of Johnny Manziel. Did you not watch SportsCenter for years? When he was in college, he was the lead story on SportsCenter all summer long, like 3 years ago. And this was the year after he won a Heisman, going into his sophomore year. And you didn't know he was a celebrity? Sometimes we think these general managers are dumb, but yet they have all this information. They know a whole lot more than we do. But then they say things like this, and they reiterate the fact that we should think that they're dumb. Do these people ever watch television? You get what you deserve, Ray Farmer, if you didn't know that. Cubs won again last night, now 40-16, the earliest team to 40 wins since the 2001 Seattle Mariners, who broke the Major League record for most wins in a season. They're on a pace for 116 wins right now. Starting pitcher ERA this year, 2.33. No other team's starting pitchers are under 3. But all baseball fans are just sitting here saying, let them win all the games they want. Let's see them win in October. I don't think it'll happen. Why? That bullpen is the most questionable part of their team. And how do you win in the postseason? A stout bullpen. Ask the Royals the last 2 years how they won. It wasn't because they were hitting the ball out of the park. It wasn't because they had great starting pitching. It's because they had Kelvin Herrera, Wade Davis, and Greg Holland. Quanzo Martin of Cal finally signed a contract to be the coach at his school yesterday. He's been the coach there 2 years. didn't sign a contract until yesterday. Huh. Okay, that's a very trustworthy guy. They got Billy Gillespie out of here in Lexington and didn't have to pay him as much as they should have because he didn't sign a contract, but I digress. The athletic director, upon this signature announcement yesterday, says, "We are glad to have Quanzo Martin. He's an educator first and foremost." Really? Educating what? How to recruit guys like Jaylen Brown when Cal has no business recruiting guys like Jaylen Brown? Maybe he's a recruiter first and foremost. Maybe he's a cheater first and foremost. More college basketball. Coach K down at Duke comes out and says, "I'm not retiring anytime soon." He's in his 70s. Did you hear Steve Spurrier come out and say he was retiring before last year? No, he kept saying, even before last season, "I'll be here another 4 or 5 years." Remember Bobby Bowden? He was like 150 years old. "Oh, dadgubbin, I got another 4 or 5 years. Especially if we play a tough schedule." That was a horrible Bobby Bowden. But my point is, no college coach ever says they're going to retire in the next year, in the next 2 years, because they lose ground in recruiting if they do. College football, the Baylor alumni took out a full-page ad in a newspaper in Waco, Texas, thanking Ken Starr for protecting the students and the integrity of the program. If protecting the students and the integrity of the program means hiding all the sexual assault charges against the football team, then yeah, he did a great job. Unbelievable. And to think this guy impeached Bill Clinton. Just saying. Talk about your contradictions. Just saying. All right, 3 podcasts in a row. We have given you 3 consecutive underdog winners in Major League Baseball. We'll go back there again tonight. With 2 games to choose from, we've got game 1 of a doubleheader. Mets at Pittsburgh. Steven Matz for the Mets, 2.60. Jonathan Neese for the Pirates, 4.36. Mets 7 games over, 500. Pirates 4 games over. We're in Pittsburgh for this one. Last 3 games, Steven Matz, 2.18 ERA. I'm getting the better team. I'm getting a better situation. The Mets have had success against left-handers this year. That's what Jonathan Neese is. Give me the Mets catching 110 at Pittsburgh, game 1 of their doubleheader tonight. And here's what I'm really looking forward to. Tampa and Arizona. Matt Moore, 5.46 for the Rays against Zach Greinke, 4.29 for Arizona. Arizona, based on the Zach Greinke effect, minus 165, which means you're getting plus 155 with Tampa. Tampa 4 games under 500. Arizona 10 games under 500. Why am I taking the Rays tonight? They've won 4 in a row. They've got a pitcher who's been pitching better, and you're going against Zach Greinke. Now, why in the world would I go against Zach Greinke? Last 3 games, he seemed to be getting his act together. 2.14 ERA the last 3. At home this year, Arizona, 9 wins, 21 losses. As a home favorite this year, which they are tonight, 7 wins, 14 losses. Yes, Zach Greinke is getting things straightened out from a rough start, but this Tampa team is hot. They've won 4 in a row. I worry about the fact that Alex Colomé has pitched 3 straight. That's their closer, which means Xavier Cedeno will be their closer tonight. Other than that, all signs point towards Tampa getting a big upset tonight in the desert. Give me Tampa plus 155 against Arizona, and those are your 2 Mac Daddy Stogies of the night. If you win 1, you make a profit, so be smoking 1 by the 9th inning. And that's it for today's Tuesday, June the 7th edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Thanks, as always, for listening. Follow us on Twitter at BottomLineLex. Email anytime, bottomlinelex@gmail.com. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks again, and until the next time, may the winners be yours.